The awakening of the so-called Black community to their spiritual roots is no coincidence. It's part of a divine plan. Prophetic passages reveal that Israel will experience this revival in the last days. We woke up, and our enemies know what comes next. It may be surprising to some that awakening language in Scripture is explicitly applied to Israel as a people and nation in prophecy, not just to individuals. Why is that? There are three primary reasons. Israel's restoration is part of the Most High's covenant promises as stated in Jeremiah 31, 35 through 7, and Deuteronomy 30, 3 through 4. Also, the nation serves as a witness to the nations, as found in Isaiah 44, 6. We're going to look at those passages. But the prophetic awakening also includes judgment against the nations that afflicted and oppressed the people of the Most High, which is key to the end time timeline. So those who are aware of their impending judgment look for ways to delay the inevitable because they know how things will end. Now let's look at this from Isaiah 52, 1 through 2. Awake, awake, put on your strength, O Zion. Put on your beautiful garments, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For the uncircumcised and the unclean shall no longer come to you. Shake yourself from the dust. Arise. Sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose yourself from the bonds of your neck, O captive daughter of Zion. So we see a concept of Israel's awakening in the last days. It's a specific, divinely appointed event, and this is how it has been understood historically. We see a promised future awakening of the nation that was held in captivity. This is not a general call. It's a directed call that is specific to Zion, Jerusalem, and the daughter of Zion, meaning the nation of Israel. When you look at the first verse, you have to look at it in a context of restoration after captivity. What's the takeaway message? It's not talking about individual spirituality. It's saying there is a future national restoration and renewal for Yah's people. When we look at Jeremiah 31, 35 through 37, we see Abiyah's unwavering faithfulness to Israel. He ties the nation's continued existence before him to the consistency and order of the sun, moon, and stars. We also see a challenge here. As creator of these ordinances, the Most High is saying, if these ordinances depart from before him, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before him forever. Now, let's not miss the fact of what happens if these things depart. What happens to humanity if we don't have the moon or the sun? In verse 37, he says, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done. Did you catch that? He has already taken all of their sin into consideration. and challenges anyone to measure the heavens or search out earth's foundations as a condition for Israel's rejection. It's safe to say that the evil one has already tried. Now let's look at another passage that I referenced earlier. This comes from Deuteronomy 30:1-4, and a lot of you are already familiar with this passage. Moses is telling the nation of Israel that after they experience the blessing and the curse that would befall them, and they remembered those things in the nations where they were taken into captivity, and return to the Most High and do what? Obey His voice, obey Yah's voice, according to all that Moses commanded them. So Moses was the mouthpiece being used. That's an important point right there. Did Moses just arbitrarily come up with some rules on his own and say to them, you need to do these things? Because here he's saying, when you return to the Most High and obey His voice, according to all that I command you today, you and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul, that the Most High Yah will bring you back from captivity and have compassion on you and gather you again from all the nations where the Most High has scattered you. Now listen carefully to verse 4. If any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under heaven, from there the Most High will gather you, and from there He will bring you. So we see that the awakening is covenant-based. And let's also remember that it wasn't a divided kingdom when Moses spoke to them. So we're talking about this happening for both houses. Now, the Valley of the Dry Bones prophecy found in Ezekiel 37:1-14 is one of the clearest examples of a future awakening that is specific to the nation of Israel. This prophecy describes their death, as in their dispersion in captivity. Then it talks about their resurrection, as in their awakening and restoration, and then their return to the land. So Ezekiel is placed in the valley in the midst of dry bones, and then told to prophesy to the bones. The Most High told him to say to the bones, surely I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. I will put sinews on you and bring flesh upon you, cover you with skin and put breath in you, and you shall live. Then you shall know that I am the Most High. So he said, I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and suddenly a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. Indeed, as I looked, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, and the skin covered them over, but there was no breath in them. Also he said to me, prophesy to the breath. Prophesy, Son of Man, and say to the breath, thus says the Most High Yah, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe on these slain, that they may live. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and breath came into them, and they lived, and stood up upon their feet, an exceedingly great army. Then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They indeed say, our bones are dry, our hope is lost, and we ourselves are cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, thus says the Most High Yah, behold, O my people, I will open your graves and cause you to come up from your graves and bring you into the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I am the Most High, when I have opened your graves, O my people, and brought you up from your graves. I will put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I will place you in your own land. Then you shall know that I, the Most High, have spoken it and performed it, says the Most High. So this passage presents resurrection imagery of Israel's national awakening. Most importantly, it emphasizes work that is to be done by the Most High. And this is why he's telling them that when this happens, they will know that he is the Most High. No one will be able to take credit for this. So the awakening is not random. It's Abba Yah fulfilling his covenant commitments to the nation of Israel. And those who hate us know this. If they could, they would stop it. Let's take a look at something some of you may be familiar with, the doctrine of the convergent timeline paradox and its connection to Project Looking Glass. This says Project Looking Glass is an alleged U.S. government program claimed to have developed a device capable of viewing probable futures, not just predicting them, according to proponents like Dan Burich. The device was reverse engineered from ancient Sumerian cylinder seals, allegedly containing schematics for alien technology. It used exotic physics like electromagnets, argon gas, mirrors, and lenses to warp space-time and project holographic-like images of possible futures. In other words, this technology to see into the future is being used like a crystal ball. The question is who, or should I say what, is showing them the future? We already know, because all of this advanced technology is coming from somewhere. It's not happening by chance. It's the deceiver, the principalities in high places. But here's the thing. The power of those beings is limited. They don't have as much power as they think, or they would not have been banished. They can only go so far. They will be granted a certain amount of time in these last days so that the prophecies can be fulfilled. But after that, the lake of fire. Let's go on. It says, the DCTP, or Doctrine of the Convergent Timeline Paradox, is often brought up in discussions of Project Looking Glass to explain why, despite multiple possible futures, all timelines appear to converge on the same event. The theory suggests that the looking glass could reveal these convergence points, showing that certain events are unavoidable. It goes on to say that to alter them might be useless because all timelines still pass through the same interconnection. However, the way observers respond to these points can still shape the future branches that emerge. So what are these events that's supposed to happen that's so earth-shattering that they have to keep it covered up? Other sources that I read referred to it as a mass awakening or a global transformation in human consciousness and societal structures. What could this mass awakening possibly be? Mass awakening? And apparently they used different viewers. Some of them were psychics to view the information separately. So only the puppet masters know what these events are. That's very suspicious, don't you think? Here's the thing. We have the prophecies, and we were told to watch for certain signs. The other thing is, we can pay attention to the moves they are currently making. They seem to be scrambling to put certain things in place by 2030 because proponents claim that the device could not change the outcome of all branches of the timeline. It always led to the same endpoint. Now think about this. If they know that attempts to change outcomes after a certain point will be useless, what's the alternative? They need to look for ways to delay the inevitable or put things in place to try to control what's going to happen. Here's what's going to cook their noodles. The procedures they put in place may be the things that trigger the outcome they don't want. So whistleblowers also said that these psychics or remote viewers per se, who were operating as seers during the simulations, talked about 3 dates that they saw. According to whistleblower Dan Burich's testimony, when operators ran simulations or viewed timelines, all possible future outcomes converged on 3 specific dates. December 21st, 2012. So this was the most prominent convergence point, matching the end date of the Mayan long count calendar and various ancient and modern prophecies about a global transformation or catastrophe. The other date was December 2022. So this appeared repeatedly in the projections, suggesting a recurring or cyclical pattern in the observed timelines. And the other date was December 2030. This also appeared in multiple simulations, and it says possibly indicating a future event or shift tied to the program's predictive framework. It goes on to say that these dates are central to the claims made by Burrich and other alleged insiders who say the looking glass device could not show exact outcomes, but instead revealed a set of probable futures that all aligned on these 3 points. The convergence is described as a pattern rather than a single deterministic event, implying that these dates were significant in the program's strategic or prophetic assessments. Now, what's interesting is that they came to this knowledge because of cylinders found in Iraq. Let's look at this from Science News Today. It's entitled, Ancient Clay Cylinders Found in Iraq Reveal a King's Secret Plan to Save a Crumbling Temple. It says, deep in the heart of modern-day Iraq, the winds of time frequently peel back the layers of the earth to reveal secrets buried for millennia. In 2013, the landscape near Tel al-Umir yielded such a secret when 2 local residents stumbled upon a pair of inscribed clay cylinders resting on the sun-baked surface. These were not mere fragments of pottery. They were ancient foundation texts, deliberate messages left behind by a ruler who wanted his legacy to endure long after his empire turned to dust. When the finders handed these artifacts over to the State Board of Antiquities and Heritage, they set in motion a scientific investigation that would bridge a gap of over 2,500 years. It says the objects were found among the ruins of the ancient city of Kish, a site dominated by the weathered remains of a ziggurat, a massive stepped temple tower that once reached toward the heavens. For years, archaeologists had suspected that the legendary King Nebuchadnezzar II, who ruled from 604 to 562 BC, had played a role in maintaining this sacred structure. Excavations had previously uncovered stamped bricks bearing his name, but bricks are common construction materials. What scholars lacked was a formal narrative account of his work. The discovery of these two cylinders changed everything, providing the first primary foundation text documenting the king's personal dedication to the restoration of this holy site. So we need to ask the question, what was the war in Iraq and the war in Iran really about? Are they staged so that those with evil intentions can get their hands on ancient artifacts that may have been passed down from the fallen? Some of you may remember when we saw a number of news reports where they were showing images of Iraq's National Museum being ransacked in 2003. Well, let's hear the rest of the story. Let's look at this from the cradle. It's entitled How the U.S., UAE, and Israel Plundered Iraq's Antiquities. It says the U.S. invasion of Iraq paved the way for the systematic looting and destruction of countless ancient artifacts and manuscripts, with the UAE and Israel playing a significant part in the ongoing theft and global smuggling of these items. It says the Iraqi Ministry of Culture recently announced a significant recovery of 23,000 artifacts, most of which were looted during the illegal U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. This act was seen as an attempt to erase Iraqi's cultural identity, yet often overlooked. The rich Iraqi Jewish archive remains a contentious topic, with parts of it ending up in Tel Aviv before reaching other destinations. It goes on to say that it was by no coincidence that U.S. forces established bases within crucial archaeological sites across Iraq, including Babylon, dating back to 2300 BC, and Ur from 3800 BC, also Hatra, Nimrod, and others. So speaking to the cradle, antiquities expert Haider Farhan says that the museum contains thousands of rare artifacts and manuscripts, but there are no official statistics on the number of antiquities stolen from the museum in 2003. According to Farhan, U.S. forces are directly and indirectly responsible for stealing the museum's contents. Now they're going to talk about the Israeli connection. It says, speaking on condition of anonymity, an official source in the Iraqi Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and Antiquities reveals to the cradle that from 2003 until their departure in 2011, U.S. forces secured for Jewish excavation teams to evacuate Iraqi archaeological sites, especially in Babylon and Ur. In 2010, Israeli Channel 7 reported on a Torah scroll that had been smuggled from Iraq to Tel Aviv. This raised questions about how such a rare piece ended up there, considering it was supposed to be maintained by the Hoover Institution of Stanford University. Until today, the controversy surrounding the Iraqi Jewish archive remains, despite an agreement between the Iraqi government and the U.S. for its return to Baghdad in 2014. The archive mysteriously ended up in Tel Aviv in 2015. That's not all, you all. Listen. According to the writer and researcher Nabil al-Rubai, the Jewish archive included 48 scrolls of passages from the book of Genesis written on gazelle skin, calendars in Hebrew, 7,002 books, and a group of sermons in Hebrew dating back to 1692. It also included, according to Rubai, 1,700 rare artifacts documenting the era of the first and second Babylonian captivity, the oldest copy of the Babylonian Talmud, the oldest copy of the Torah, and legal records dating back several centuries. Several centuries. They were left there by the Israelites who were in Iraq, along with other valuables.
During and after the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq, looters raided the country's government offices and also seized ancient artifacts from Iraq's museums. The museums were also vandalized after the 1991 Gulf War. And it is not known how many of Iraq's antiquities have been stolen from the country's archaeological sites.
They are returning items to their natural homes and to a nation that is very attached to its cultural heritage. They help in the fight against criminal and terrorist networks because they prevent the latter from taking advantage of these precious items to raise funds.
Hobby Lobby's expert advised them to be careful about acquiring Iraqi cultural property because hundreds of thousands of objects had been looted from Iraqi archaeological sites. She warned them that cuneiform tablets and cylinder seals were particularly popular on the market and likely to have been looted. The story should have ended there, but it did not. Instead, Hobby Lobby went ahead and bought the artifacts for approximately $1.6 million.
Here are some close-ups of the cylinders and the seals. So some believe that the seals were supposedly given to the Sumerians by the fallen angels to help them escape extinction. Here you see some other artifacts. Look at these winged beings here. You can see how they are interacting with humans. Now this is a diagram of what the project or the looking glass device look like, and you can see that there are different parts that have been labeled. Here's another close-up view of it. Look at that part in the middle. That rotates when the device is activated. Supposedly it begins spinning. Here's a look at what that might look like when it was activated. The whistleblower said the cylinders worked as part of a multi-component system involving rotating electromagnetic assemblies, gas-filled chambers that required a specific type of gas, optical elements, and tuned electromagnetic fields to create a controlled space-time environment for projecting these probable future events. So the different tiers of the bloodline families that trace their lineage back to the fallen are using various techniques trying to manipulate future events. They're using sorcery, AI, and ancient technologies. They know how things will end for them. They can look at these Bible prophecies and see that, but they foolishly believe that they will be able to get rid of those they see as undesirable. They already know what the prophecies say concerning us. Let's just look at Zechariah 10:6. The Most High says he will strengthen the house of Judah and will save the house of Joseph. So we see the two branches. He says he will bring them back because he will have mercy on them, and they will be as though he had not cast them aside. So our Father is going to keep his promises concerning us and hear us. He has seen the wicked practices of those who hate us. Only those who want to be deceived honestly believe that these folks got rid of their evil intentions toward us. And even though we know we are their main targets, others will be impacted because they know that the current system is no longer working. It cannot sustain everyone. This is why they're trying to transcend and morph into something else. They believe that they will be able to escape what's coming.
They see that the thing is ending. The civilization is ending. The economy got too poorly distributed, right? The pyramid of the societies. There's too many elites at the top. It's going to collapse. We all see it. They see it. So now the race is on. They've got to build their AI to figure out how to get to the next place. And temporarily they could stave off maybe 50 or 100 years by having a castle protected by, droid armies and a police state. That's sort of what they're building currently. That is the plan, but that's not the long term. The long term plan is to get out, is to leave us behind.
I think it's safe to say that we will not be included in those plans. Some of you may have heard of this man and his statement on race and the world to come. He's a senior faculty member at Or Samayak, and he's been the subject of controversy after a viral clip in which he appeared to say that those whose major complexion is black will not be in the new world. Apparently that clip went viral, and it may have been the one from Pastor Kelly's channel. But this says, according to the source that posted the full context, the remark was made in reference to certain extra rabbinical sources and non-Talmudic rabbinic traditions, which in his view suggests that people of African descent have no existence in the world to come. Now just think about that. Why would anyone even suggest that this might be a possibility? He didn't come back and say, well, that statement is absolutely absurd. So again, we have to watch what is happening in the world right now and pay attention to how they move. They are certainly spooked by something. Here's the thing, family. We don't need them to save us. And actually, the Most High said no one will be able to save us. He's going to do it. And these prophecies tell us that no matter what they have up their sleeves concerning us, it's not going to be successful unless it is a fulfillment of what has been written. We already know how the story ends. And this is why I say we woke up. And our enemies know what comes next. They know that when we are restored to our rightful place, the nations that had anything to do with our captivity will crumble. They will reap what they have sown and more. So if it is true that they have seen future events, they also know that it's a confirmation of the prophecies. So don't lose hope, Israel. Your redemption draweth nigh. We're going to end it here and continue next time. You can help us by sharing these messages to those who need to hear it. You're also welcome to like, hype, and subscribe if you have not already done so. We normally upload messages on Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Yah willing. Join me next time.